4 disturbing alone at night horror stories. Welcome to MR.Quentin, your ultimate destination for spine-chilling tales that keep you on edge. Dive into the eerie world of 4 disturbing alone at night horror stories, where we unravel terrifying encounters that will make you question your safety after dark. From unsettling intruders and haunting phone calls to mysterious figures lurking in the shadows, our stories explore the deepest fears of being alone at night. Subscribe now to immerse yourself in gripping narratives, atmospheric soundscapes, and heart-pounding suspense. Whether you're a fan of the paranormal or the unexplainable, Mr. Quentin guarantees to leave you looking over your shoulder. Dare to watch, but remember, the dark isn't always empty. Story 1. The Shadows Inside My Home. My name is Michael, a 38-year-old businessman proud of the life I had built. My house, a 2-story modern home tucked away in a quiet suburban neighborhood, was more than just a structure. It was my fortress, a place where I could retreat from the chaos of work and the unpredictable nature of the world. I had always believed it was secure, equipped with a state-of-the-art security system that promised peace of mind. But the events of one fateful night shattered that illusion and left me questioning everything I thought I knew about safety. It started as a regular evening. I had just wrapped up a grueling online meeting and treated myself to a glass of bourbon, my nightly ritual to unwind. The warm amber liquid glistened in the soft glow of the living room lamp as I let out a deep sigh, sinking into my leather armchair. The large glass doors leading to the patio offered a serene view of my meticulously trimmed garden, bathed in the pale light of the full moon. I had checked the security cameras on my phone out of habit. Everything seemed calm. Empty driveways, the soft swaying of trees in the breeze, and a locked back door. There was no reason to feel uneasy. Or so I thought. Around 9 p.m., my phone buzzed with a notification. Back door activated. I frowned, staring at the alert for a moment. It wasn't uncommon for the system to send false alarms. Sometimes it was a stray cat, or even a gust of wind strong enough to trigger the sensors. Yet, something about it felt off. I switched to the camera feed for the backyard. The patio was deserted, illuminated only by the dim outdoor light. There were no shadows moving, no sign of disturbance. Dismissing it as another glitch, I stood up to double-check the lock. The back door was secure, the lock firmly in place. I tried to shake off the uneasy feeling creeping up my spine, telling myself I was overthinking. As I turned to head back to the living room, a fleeting sensation struck me, a prickling awareness, like I was being watched. My eyes darted toward the darkness beyond the glass door, but I saw nothing, just the stillness of the night. I laughed nervously, muttering to myself, "Paranoia, Michael, just paranoia." I went to bed, but the unease lingered like a shadow at the edge of my consciousness. My room, typically a haven of quiet, felt too still, too silent. And then it came. The faintest sound, barely audible, but enough to pull me from the edge of sleep. Click! My heart skipped a beat. I sat up, straining to hear. Creak! The sound of wood bending under pressure echoed faintly through the darkness. Someone or something was in the house. Grabbing my phone with trembling hands, I opened the security app again. My breath hitched as I flipped through the live feeds. The living room was empty. The kitchen appeared untouched, but as I switched to the camera near the back door, my stomach dropped. A shadow passed through the frame. Quick, deliberate, and unmistakable. My pulse pounded in my ears. I dialed 911, whispering as quietly as I could. "There's someone in my house. Please, send help. 128 Elm Street. The operator's calm voice reassured me that officers were on their way, but every second felt like an eternity. I barricaded myself in the bedroom, pushing the dresser against the door and gripping a metal lamp for defense. My ears trained to pick up every sound. Footsteps, rustling, anything that confirmed my fear. The sirens came like a lifeline, their wailing breaking through the oppressive silence. Shouts and heavy footsteps followed as the police stormed in. Moments later, there was a knock at my bedroom door. "Mr. Michael, it's the police. You're safe now." I opened the door cautiously, stepping out into a scene I would never forget. Two men stood in handcuffs, their faces cold and devoid of emotion. One had a duffel bag slung over his shoulder, filled with tools, kitchen knives, pliers, and a lockpicking kit. The other simply stared at me, his expression unnervingly calm, as if to say, "This isn't over." The officers assured me that they had caught the intruders in time and that nothing had been taken. But it wasn't the material loss I was worried about. It was the way my home suddenly felt alien. The walls, once comforting, now seemed to close in around me. In the following days, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. Every creak of the floorboards, every rustle of leaves outside the window sent my heart racing. One morning, I found a photograph from my childhood, one that had been stored away in an attic box, sitting on my kitchen counter. I hadn't placed it there. Another night, I woke up to faint whispering, so soft it could have been the wind, but deep down, I knew better. I started finding other oddities. A single muddy footprint near the back door, a strange scratch on the living room wall, and a small, rusted key left on my desk. None of these things made sense. The police dismissed my concerns as paranoia, but I felt it in my gut. Those men weren't just burglars. They had left something behind. Now, every night is a battle. I lie awake, staring at the ceiling, waiting for the next sound, the next shadow to appear. The sense of security I once had is gone, replaced by a chilling realization. Some shadows never truly live. And sometimes the worst horrors aren't the ones you see. They're the ones that linger just out of sight, watching, waiting. Do you dare to listen to the dark? If tonight's tale gave you chills, let us know your thoughts in the comments. We want to hear what creeps you out and what other stories you'd love us to explore. Don't miss out on the next terrifying story. Subscribe to Mr. Quentin and join the family that thrives on the unknown. Tap the notification bell so you're the first to hear every spine-chilling tale. Share this video with someone brave enough to face the darkness, and let's dive deeper into the creeps that haunt our world. Comment below and become part of the terror. The darkness is calling, and we want you with us. Story 2: Stranger at the Door. A tale of unrelenting fear. Have you ever felt like you were being watched? A prickling sensation on the back of your neck that makes the hair stand on end, even when you're certain you're alone? That's how it began for me. My name is Emma, and I was 28 at the time, a graduate student trying to juggle thesis deadlines and late-night study sessions in my tiny apartment just off campus. That weekend, my roommates had gone out of town, leaving me alone for the first time in what felt like forever. I was looking forward to the solitude, or so I thought. It started innocently enough, with a phone call late Friday evening. I almost didn't pick up, assuming it was another scammer, but something about the persistent ringing made me answer. "Hello," I said, my voice sharp and impatient. Silence greeted me on the other end. For a moment, I thought the line had gone dead, but then I heard it, faint, shallow breathing. "Who is this?" I demanded. The breathing stopped, replaced by a click as the caller hung up. Annoyed but not overly concerned, I chalked it up to a wrong number or a prank and went back to my book. An hour later, it happened again. This time, I didn't answer. The phone rang 4 times before stopping. A creeping unease began to settle over me, but I shook it off. "I'm being paranoid," I told myself. That's when I noticed the shadow. It was faint at first, just a flicker in my peripheral vision outside the living room window. I tried to convince myself it was just the wind rustling the trees or maybe a stray cat. But as the minutes passed, the shadow became more defined. Someone was standing just beyond the edge of the porch light, motionless, watching. My heart began to pound, and my palms turned clammy. I could feel my breath quicken as my mind raced through the possibilities. "Hello, who's out there?" I called, trying to keep my voice steady. No response. I grabbed my phone, heart hammering in my chest, and dialed the non-emergency police line. "There's someone outside my house," I told the dispatcher. "They're just standing there, staring." The officer on the other end assured me they'd send a patrol car. By the time the officers arrived, the figure was gone. They searched the yard and surrounding area, but found nothing. "Probably just a kid playing a prank," one of them said, offering me a sympathetic smile. "Call us if it happens again." Feeling foolish, I locked the doors and windows, turned on every light in the house, and settled in for a restless night. But sleep wouldn't come. Every creak of the floorboards, every gust of wind against the windows had me jumping out of my skin. I kept replaying the events in my head, questioning myself. Had I imagined it? Was I overreacting? Or was someone really out there, watching? I finally drifted off around 3 a.m., only to be woken by a loud knock at the door. My stomach dropped. Who would be knocking at this hour? I crept to the door and peeked through the peephole. No one was there. But as I turned away, something caught my eye. An envelope resting on the welcome mat. Against my better judgment, I opened the door just enough to snatch it up and quickly locked it again. My hands trembled as I opened the envelope, revealing a single photograph. It was me sitting on the couch, taken through the living room window. I couldn't breathe. My mind raced. How long had they been watching? Were they still out there? I called the police again, and they arrived within minutes. They searched the property thoroughly this time, but found no trace of the intruder. "If you see anything else suspicious, don't hesitate to call," one officer said. But their words offered little comfort. I tried to explain the photograph, the unsettling sensation of being watched, but their skeptical expressions made me feel it even more isolated. I spent the rest of the night huddled in my bedroom with the lights off, clutching a kitchen knife. My thoughts spiraled into darker territory. What if they were inside the house? What if they were waiting for me to let my guard down? The oppressive feeling of being watched didn't leave me, even as the sun began to rise. When morning came, I packed a bag and left for a friend's house. I couldn't stay there alone anymore. Even now, months later, I can't shake the fear. I moved to a new apartment across town, installed cameras, and adopted a large dog for protection. But every time the phone rings late at night, or I catch a flicker of movement outside, I'm transported back to that weekend. I still wonder who they were and what they wanted, and I'll never forget the feeling of their eyes on me, silent, predatory, unrelenting. Sometimes, in my darkest moments, I wonder if they're still watching. If you're alone right now, maybe double check your locks. You never know who might be watching. Do you dare to listen to the dark? If tonight's tale gave you chills, Let us know your thoughts in the comments. We want to share what creeps you out and what other stories you'd love us to explore. Don't miss out on the next terrifying story. Subscribe to Mr. Quentin and join the family that thrives on the unknown. Tap the notification bells so you are the first to hear every spine-chilling tale. Share this video with someone brave enough to face the darkness, and let's dive deeper into the creeps that haunt our world. Comment below and become part of the terror. The darkness is calling, and we want you with us. Story 3: The Curse of Greeny Jack's Mask. It was a night like any other in Austin, the streets alive with the muffled hum of distant laughter and the occasional wail of a passing siren. My shift at the coffee shop had ended late, as usual. My feet ached and the sticky remnants of spilled caramel syrup clung to my hands. All I wanted was to go home, sink into my worn-out couch, and let the comforting glow of my television drown out the exhaustion of the day. But fate had other plans that night, plans that would haunt me for the rest of my life. I was halfway home, walking through the quiet stretch of East 6th Street, where the bustling nightlife began to fade into eerie silence. That's when I saw it, lying there, discarded on the cracked sidewalk under the weak glow of a flickering street lamp, was a mask. Not just any mask. This one was grotesque, with the painted visage of a clown. The face was twisted into an unsettling grin, its hollow eyes staring up at the sky as if mocking the very heavens. It wasn't the cheap, rubbery kind you'd find in a dollar store. No, this looked authentic. The paint was chipped in places, revealing an aged, almost decayed surface beneath, and the smell. It was faint, but I swear, it reeked of mildew and something far worse. I should have walked away. A normal person would have, but there was something about that mask, something that made it impossible to ignore. Maybe it was morbid curiosity, or maybe it was the odd feeling that it had been left there for me to find. Against my better judgment, I picked it up, the rough texture of its edges biting into my palm. I held it up under the light, inspecting the grotesque craftsmanship before stuffing it into my bag and hurrying home. The whole walk back, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. Every shadow seemed to shift, every sound seemed amplified, and when I turned the key to my apartment door, relief washed over me like a warm blanket. That night, I couldn't sleep. The mask sat on my kitchen counter, its sinister grin catching the faint light from the window. I told myself it was just a piece of trash, just some random junk someone left behind. But deep down, I felt an inexplicable unease. By morning, I had decided to get rid of it. I'd take it to the dumpster behind my building and forget it ever existed. But when I went to grab it, the mask was gone. At the first, I thought I had misplaced it. Maybe I had thrown it out already and simply forgotten. But then the strange occurrences began. It started small, a shadow darting across my living room when I was alone, the faint sound of laughter coming from the other side of my apartment door. I brushed it off as my imagination, stress from work or lack of sleep. But then, one night, I saw him. I was lying in bed, scrolling mindlessly through my phone, when I heard the faint creak of floorboards outside my bedroom. My heart froze, and every hair in my body stood on end. Slowly, I reached for the bedside lamp, my hand trembling as I flicked it on. The room flooded with light, and for a moment everything seemed normal, but then I saw the silhouette. Standing just beyond the doorway, shrouded in shadow, was a figure, and on their face was the mask, that awful, grinning mask. The sight was paralyzing. I couldn't move, couldn't scream. We locked eyes, or at least I thought we did. before the figure turned and vanished into the darkness. The police came, of course. They searched the apartment, found no signs of forced entry, and chalked it up to a possible prank or my imagination. But I knew what I saw. The next few days were a blur of paranoia and sleepless nights. I started noticing the masked figure more frequently. Sometimes he'd be standing across the street, staring up at my window. Other times, he'd leave things outside my door, a single balloon, a small toy car, once even a rusted knife. Each item seemed random, but carried an unmistakable air of malice. Desperate, I tried everything. Changing my locks, installing cameras, even staying at a friend's place for a few nights. But no matter where I went, he found me. It was as if the mask carried a curse, and by touching it, I had become its target. My mind spiraled into dark places, wondering who was behind the mask and why they had chosen me. Did they know something about my past? Was this some twisted game, or was I caught in the web of something far more sinister? I began researching the mask, hoping to find some explanation. Online forums about urban legends and haunted objects yielded fragmented stories, none of which offered any comfort. One post mentioned a similar mask that had been found years ago after a circus fire in 1958. The fire had killed dozens, including the infamous clown known as Greeny Jack, whose malevolent reputation had haunted the town for decades. The mask was said to have been his, cursed to bring misery to anyone who dared possess it. At first, I dismissed the story as folklore, but the more I read, the more the details aligned with my experiences. The items left at my door, the figure's appearances, the laughter, it all matched. The final straw came one evening when I returned home to find my apartment trashed. Papers were scattered, furniture overturned, and in the center of the chaos was the mask. It was sitting on my couch, waiting for me, as if mocking my futile attempts to escape. This time, there was something else. Pinned beneath the mask was a photograph, one I had never seen before. It was an old, grainy image of a carnival with Greeny Jack standing in the center. But in the background, blurred and almost unnoticeable, was a figure that looked disturbingly like me. My blood ran cold. Was this some sick joke, or had this nightmare been destined long before I ever found the mask? I packed my things that night and left Austin for good. I moved across the state, found a new job, and did everything I could to put the ordeal behind me. But even now, I can't shake the feeling that he's still out there, watching, waiting. Every so often, I'll catch a glimpse of a familiar silhouette in a crowd, or hear the faint echo of laughter in the distance. And when I close my eyes at night, I see that mask. Its twisted grin, a chilling reminder of the nightmare I can never escape. Sometimes, in the still of the night, I wonder if I should have left it there, on that cracked sidewalk, under the weak glow of the street lamp. But it's too late now. Once the mask finds you, it never lets you go. Do you dare to listen to the dark? If tonight's tale gave you chills, let us know your thoughts in the comments. We want to hear what creeps you out and what other stories you'd love us to explore. Don't miss out on the next terrifying story. Subscribe to MR.Quentin and join the family that thrives on the unknown. Tap the notification bell so you're the first to hear every spine-chilling tale. Share this video with someone brave enough to face the darkness, and let's dive deeper into the creeps that haunt our world. Comment below and become part of the terror. The darkness is calling, and we want you with us. Story 4. Radio Whispers. The night the void spoke back. It was one of those nights in Portland where the rain didn't just fall. It drummed relentlessly against the windows, as if demanding to be let inside, carrying whispers that seemed to blend with the wind, a sound you'd almost dismiss, if not for the unsettling feeling it left behind. I was alone in the station, just me, the dim red glow of the on-air sign, and the soft hum of the equipment. Being a late-night radio host has its perks. There's something oddly intimate about speaking into the void, knowing your voice is the companion to sleepless souls, truckers on endless highways, or night owls seeking solace. I always thought of myself as their confidant, their nocturnal friend. But that night, the void spoke back. It started innocuously enough. My usual playlist was spinning, a mix of mellow jazz and indie tunes, when the phone rang. Not unusual, listeners called in all the time, sharing their thoughts or requesting songs, but when I picked up, there was nothing. No voice, no static, just silence. "Hello, you're live on WPKM Portland," I said, my voice carrying its usual friendly timbre. Still nothing. I hung up, chalking it up to a prank or a shy listener. 5 minutes later, the phone rang again. This time I heard it, a whisper, faint and garbled, like someone speaking from the bottom of a well. I leaned closer to the receiver. "I'm sorry, I can't hear you. Can you repeat that?" The whisper stopped, replaced by a low, rhythmic sound like breathing. The hair on my arms stood on end. "If you're trying to request a song, you'll need to speak up," I said, trying to keep my tone light. The call disconnected. I stared at the phone for a long moment, the dial tone droning in my ear before I placed it back on the hook. The calls came again and again, each one more unnerving than the last. With every ring, a tightness grew in my chest, a gnawing sensation that something was watching, waiting. I'd pressed the receiver to my ear, hoping it would be nothing, but the whispers were always there, slithering through the line like venom. Questions swirled in my mind. Who was doing this, and why? My hands shook each time I hung up, my rational mind battling against a deeper, primal fear that I dared not name. I told myself it was a prank, a lonely soul toying with me for amusement, but deep down I could feel it. Something darker was at play. Sometimes the whispers sounded like they were trying to form words. Other times they were drowned by a faint, static-like noise. What rattled me most wasn't the calls themselves, but what one of them said. "You're not alone," the voice murmured. I froze. "Excuse me?" I asked, my heart pounding. The whisper came again, clearer this time. "I see you." My blood ran cold. I scanned the room, my eyes darting to the security cameras mounted in the corners. Nothing. Just me, the flickering monitors, and the unending rain outside. "Who is this?" I demanded, trying to mask the fear creeping into my voice. The caller hung up. For a moment I considered calling the police, but what would I tell them? That I was spooked by some prank calls. They'd laugh me off the line. The final call came around 3 a.m. By then I had stopped taking them, letting the phone ring itself out. The room felt heavier somehow, as if the air itself was laden with an unspoken tension. The only sounds were the faint hum of the equipment and the relentless drumming of the rain against the window. Every creak of the old station building seemed amplified, each one clawing at my fraying nerves like ghostly fingers. Even the clock on the wall seemed louder, its ticking a grim metronome, marking the passage of each agonizing second. And through it all, the phone's shrill ring sliced through the silence like a blade, demanding to be answered. But this time, something compelled me to answer. Maybe it was morbid curiosity, or maybe I wanted to confront whoever was trying to get under my skin. "What do you want?" I barked into the receiver. The response was immediate. "You should look outside." Every instinct screamed at me not to. But against my better judgment, I turned my chair toward the window. The rain distorted the glass, turning the world outside into a watery blur. And then I saw it, a figure standing across the street. They were motionless, their outline barely discernible in the dim light of the street lamp. My breath hitched. "I'm calling the police," I said into the phone, though my voice was barely more than a whisper. The line went dead. The rest of my shift passed in a haze of paranoia. Every sound, every shadow felt amplified, like the station itself was alive and breathing. When dawn finally broke, I was out of there in record time, but the experience haunted me. I tried to rationalize it, to convince myself it was just an elaborate prank. Yet, deep down, I couldn't shake the feeling that I'd been targeted, that someone or something had been watching me. And as I locked the station door behind me that morning, I couldn't help but glance over my shoulder, half expecting to see the figure standing there once more, waiting. The whispers haven't stopped. Even now, as I recount this, I hear them, soft, insidious, treading through the static of the radio waves. Sometimes I wonder if they're trying to reach you too. If you're listening late at night, remember, they know who's paying attention, and they always find their next voice to haunt. If you're listening late at night and your phone rings, think twice before you answer. You never know who might be on the other end. As the darkness deepens and the stories grow more unsettling, we venture deeper into the unknown together. Each chilling tale brings us closer to the eerie truths lurking just beyond the veil of reality. The terror doesn't stop here, it only gets worse. Subscribe to MR.Quentin now and stay on the edge of your seat. You won't want to miss what's lurking in the shadows next. Hit that notification bell and prepare for the next terrifying chapter. Remember, in the world of DTC, the creeps are always waiting, and they never rest. Good luck sleeping tonight.